That's going to wrap late watching election results, isn't it?
Yeah, probably. But we're going to record it so it can be shared. Well, I have to go to teach the first period, but I wanted to come in because I have, since it's IFA time, I've got the institutional memory of how it developed, that the IFA is such a help to the school and to the teachers. And you know, the proceeds are towards what we call signature programs here and professional development. And if you look up here, this Birchwood Garden shows how we make a graduate. And it comes out of course, our mission is to develop their intellect and their character, and they go hand in hand, and we talk about that at other times, right? And how we build that through studying historical precedent, contemporary research, and philosophical constructs. And each one of those we could talk to you for hours and hours and hours, right? But what it leads to, what the programming we have to end up with a Birchwood graduate who's just shining because their potential for developing their intellect and their character has been systematically developed by design through our programs and our professional development that goes in that direction. So one of the key parts of that up there is our signature programs, which a signature program is, if you want a child to love to learn and to love each subject, it takes, of course, a teacher who's in that room who loves that subject. And you know, by design, that's how we do it here, right? The teachers get to teach what they love. They set up a room that oozes that subject. They're familiar with the habits of mind and all the curriculum, and they get the professional journals to know the raging debates in their field, and they love what they teach. And we've said that many times. That's why I don't teach math and he doesn't teach poetry. You know, instead of at other school, you had to be able to pull it off at least 5 subjects throughout the school day and switch from one to the other, right? So our children move and they're put with a teacher who loves what they teach and has expertise in what they teach. And already we can do so much with that design of the school's design. But a signature program then takes each subject and creates an experience that allows children to immerse even further. Because to really have a good, you know, you can dig your hands on it and you can be in it for weeks at a time. Research shows that to really teach, yes, we're teaching critical thinking skills, and there's many ways that that can be done in the classroom, but also to live with something for a long time. Thinking skills training takes a devotion to some time to be able to go back to the drawing board and, you know, figure out a new way to a problem, to work on a design, whether that's your science fair project, your history day project, where you're immersed in research over a period of time on one topic and you can really have time, resources, and a focused project. So in some ways, you know, one buzzword in education today is project-based learning or design thinking, but that's not just in the so-called STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering, and math, but we want them to have that experience in history, in reading, right? Okay, so to get the idea of our signature programs, there's something that takes what's going on in the classroom and elevates it to immerse the children to really experience that subject in another way. So we have, over the years, developed in every subject. Some of them are ones we've made up, like the poetry show. The children immerse themselves in poetry for an extended period of time, and they learn to memorize them, and these are the works of great master poets, and they memorize them and learn to articulate and present them and learn, stage presence. The science fair in the early grades, up through 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, all the way through, we took what everybody does in a school science fair project and figured out how to do that in a really meaningful way that mirrors what a scientist does. So we added the component of you have to do some research first and review the literature and so on. So in the same way, History Day, you all know about National History Day when you come here because it's such a out there program that we have that the children do so well in and earn awards for their hard work. But everything that we do in the upper grades is begun in the lower grades. So we have to design systematically to be able to get to 6th and 7th grade and do a History Day fair is not all on the shoulders of those teachers in that classroom. By design from the early grades. So there's a lot of professional development. The signature programs and the professional development go hand in hand. But we've had to design systematically. When do they start learning how to use a dictionary? At what grade do we have projects where they also do interviews, where they also learn how to read a primary source and do research? And they need to do this kind of project with their social studies. In 2nd grade, this kind in 3rd, this kind in 4th, so that by 5th grade, they can put it all together, and then in 6th grade, it's History Day. But you don't see behind the scenes that is also a signature program that we've designed that leads to something meaningful in the upper grades that, we have to start having money at our fingertips to pay for these entry fees. So some of the signature programs are by our own design, and others are programs that we have studied over the years which ones are meaningful to engage our students in. In the early grades, we did some science fairs where right away we just always won. We figured out after the 2nd year how to win. And we just realized we're not doing that one anymore. It is not a meaningful, because we're not in it for that. We use the extrinsic thing to make the real intrinsic thing happen. So by design, again, and a lot of study, we have placed these over the years at the right, developmental stage, and in sequence with what's going on 1st through 8th grade. Another one that is a program that is not a competition is junior grade books. You cannot get it better than what the Great Books Foundation did in the 1950s under Mortimer Adler and others at the University of Chicago to help citizens in our country be thinking readers and know how to read something with inquiry and share and discuss and talk to each other about big, great ideas. And so out from that came the junior grade books program, and we send every single reading teacher who's new, within the first couple months of being here, we've sent them off to a junior grade books training. So you see, some of these things are professional development, and some of them are competition fees, but they're all part of a cohesive program to engage children in the experience, meaningful, deeper experiences in each subject. So in the early years, when we found National History Day, right away, that was the first one that we found. And I was the social studies teacher, And I had this child, Helene, who he was just so bright. And he didn't sleep. In 3rd and 4th grade, his mother said, no, he's just so charged. I can't get him to go to sleep before 12 o'clock. And then he's up at 5. What do I do next? And it wasn't ADHD, it was just this capacity that was burning. And so I had him in 3rd and 4th and 5th grade in reading and social studies. When we could plug him into History Day, it was just like, now he wasn't limited by the nightly homework or the short little social studies projects we came up with. This child could just, it's unlimited the amount of primary sources, secondary sources. It gave him what he needed to be able to develop who he was. But in those early years, we feel parents come here, if you can team with us with what we're doing with character and developing habits and the homework thing, we did not want to raise our tuition to be able to enter kids in these competitions, but we saw the value of them. So I did bake sales, I did car washes. If we had to get to Columbus, and we had children whose dads had a steady job in a steel mill. But, they were doing everything they could to pay our low tuition. And then, it's $60 to be in National History Day, to register for History Day. Now it's $100 a kid. And there was another one whose father was on disability, and we found a way for the mom to help out at the school, and but then you add, future problem solving is $100 a team, so there's 4 kids on a team, so we have to find $25 for each kid. And so the story goes, when that particular child made it to nationals, we even racked our brains to ask parents, do you need, these kids will do anything. And so they went to clean houses, they babysat, and this was another extra thing for me to do. But it was so worth it because to see children just take off on these things, and they're doing meaningful things. They correlate to the intrinsic nature of that subject. This is what historians do. This is what scientists do. So it was all worth it. And it wasn't just me, all those teachers in the early years. So one day, 2 parents came to us and said, could we do something to help with this? And to make a long story short, they had this idea for the IFA, and how can we help the teachers? And when we came up with, these signature programs, if we didn't have to, at every crack, keep asking parents for money, and if the teachers could just freely do these things, and it's a leveler too, socioeconomic, that you come here, you all get to do this stuff, and no questions asked. And we're determined we are not going to raise the tuition for this. That's why these are the hidden costs, why the tuition's double at other schools. Because this doesn't come out of thin air. Every single math thing that your children do in the classroom, from 1st and 2nd grade on, the noetic contest, all those things, those are not free. There's an entry fee for a class to participate in those. Then when the teacher pays the fees and register, then there's the problems are released. The test day is set up, and you get feedback, you get grades, you get all of those things that we build in the early years, with the math, is just seemed like just beautiful, whether it's, a competition fee for an individual registration, a team fee for future problem solving, which is now $100 a team in 6th through 8th grade. We have 9 teams now, and that's just for the first level. And we just create this monster because then they win. And we're upping enrollment, so now we have more teams. And it's an elective, and they're all signing up for it because the morale is high. And they're solving problems like, we just finished the the future problem of educational disparity. And, this is a real thing. It used to be more about race, but now it's more about socioeconomic. And now we're in the problem of
I'm going to stop you in a minute.
genetically modified. Okay, I will let you add. Almost done. I'm talking really fast, trying to get this all in. Genetically modified food, we're going to do 3D printing. So to be able to just freely do these things and not nickel dime the parents and let the teachers just do this for all the children has just been wonderful. And you can see now too how the signature programs go hand in hand with the professional development. The creative problem the future problem solving that we do in the upper grades, I just pulled a few things off the shelf. In the lower grades, we do creative problem solving, but you're very careful with the young children to engage them in competition, right? So they don't get it. They just want to win. If they lose, they cry, and they just don't get it. But you don't need to infuse meaningful problem solving into social studies and into science. So that right now in science they're studying water and human use of it. So, I hope I portrayed that. Also the poetry show, we're in it now. There's just little costs with props and costumes, and we tell teachers, up to this very small amount you can turn in your receipts. So, thank you. It's a true partnership with the school. And when the children do their IFA projects, we try to get this message across. The parents are being so helpful to the teachers for your education. And here's a little something you can do to give back and to say thank you. And with the upper grades, they run that, what's it called?
All the games.
The game rooms, right? They start to get it, that, when you belong to something, you learn to put in. And, these things just don't happen, that you get to do History Day and you get to do future problem solving. This is the way to show gratitude.
I have to add to that because the side that's important is the question came, how was the art money spent? That was the question we got. And the issue that Helene's brought up is just the activities themselves. It was just sweat equity that allowed these things to happen. So we never budget in staffing costs. For example, Monday I gave a 2-hour workshop on Jerome Bruner and Hilda Tauber. It took me hours to prepare that. If we brought somebody in to do that workshop, we're talking $5,000 to $10,000. If you ask somebody to come in and do the poetry show, as we think about it, when I see her exhausted doing it, it's going to cost us $3,000 to $5,000 to get somebody in who knows poetry and drama and can put together a program. So when we did the art, all the art budget showed was how much money went out for things. There was no record keeping of the hours that was put in. We had Hannah Miller do CAD drawings, so we bought the right kind of equipment and so on and so on. So the aspect of what the IFA gives to us is allows dedicated teachers to not at least also have to run cookie sales and bake sales, whatever, But you can see, as we go down the road, this is one of our big concerns, and I think it's good for the parent committee to know, and for long-term for IFA, that, I mean, I have tons of energy, so I'm fine right now, but I run an after-school Tuesday math club, after-school Thursday math club, and I'm here from 9 till 12 on Saturdays with the kids who want to make it to the state or national level. I mean, you're in education, how much do you think we'd have to pay for that?
Well, that's a lot.
You're not going to find someone to say, well, I just have a great heart for the kids. It's not going to happen.
Right, for 12 hours a week.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And so, you know, wondering where the art money went, or whether, you know, it's like with the air conditioning. Adam and I sat around figuring, okay, I hate to spend the money on scaffolding. So we've got to get scaffolds up there. So we looked at the air conditioner, and then Adam said, you know what, I think we can do it from inside. Then all I need is a couple of big muscular guys who will carry the stuff up and we'll get it in. Okay, so how much money did we save on not having to have scaffolding or to get somebody professional in here to do it? So, you know, we're so grateful to the IFA collecting this kind of money to allow us, like professional day, the amount we do get is, it can at least take care of our, the times we send teachers to specific conferences for that. Then they come back. 2 weekends ago, Connie Miller, Hannah Banji, and Michelle Bottini went to the Isaacs conference. They will give a presentation on Monday to the whole staff. So we do send teachers out to do those kinds of things. But I'll tell you a real funny story to cut in here. One group from CMSD, Cleveland Metropolitan School District, was supposed to come here and join our junior grade books, costing each of them $400, 6 people. Finally, they called back and said they couldn't do it. Why couldn't they do it? Because they were going to the National Association of Gifted Children in Florida, 10 people, at $3,000 a crack.
The flight, that we never do that. Here, let me say one more thing.
Let me finish this. So you know, and this kind of issue, we kind of have our pushback too, because we have to look down the road. The amount of time that Helene has to put into FPS, or Connie Miller on History Day, the hours of working with kids. At the very least, we'll have to consider, if we bring other people on as time goes on, like you play for a football coach or a basketball coach, there has to be stipends that pay for that. So, you know, on the one hand, we're grateful that the IFA at least allows us not to run these cookie things and stuff like that, or wash cars. But I think there needs to be a bigger perspective that, you know, it's never really paid for the whole program. And I think that's an important understanding to have. We're going to need staffing down the road to bring people with the kind of expertise, and, you know, I say it all modesty, that Helene and I have put into the program, because this field we know, and we know really well. But as time goes on, we'll have to think about those special costs.
So I'm just going to add 2 more things, and then I have to skedaddle. The example of the professional development, we also sent Michelle Bottini, when the National Science Teachers Association conference is in Ohio,
driving distance,
then we send them. And if, you know, if they need some gas money, that's fine, but they'll usually say, oh, and I can stay, I've been wanting to stay with my aunt, see my aunt. You know, so everybody's
well,
sort
we'll
of...
ask them that, don't you
have a cousin there? I mean, we're always trying to watch the money, right? But it's very important. Here's a new teacher, just perfect. Loves science, just doing a great job. We're really happy with her. So we've seen that, so we're going to invest in that teacher. And she's also putting thought into not just what's happening in 5th through 8th, because she is the best mentor in the world with Linda Brown, but she's helping, again, it's in the lower grades, the things you don't see, where we're building this, the rich, what's going on in the lower grades, in problem solving, design thinking, and so on. And we have to build that into the curriculum. So that was one thing I wanted to say, and just to add on to the art thing, we had a turnover of art teachers for a couple of years, so I was the one who just took it on. I would have them give me their wish lists and find out what it costs and all of that. And the art teacher's dream, we finally found a place to have water in an art room. We always located them near the maintenance sink. So to put the plumbing in down there and the study that took, and the dividers and the scanner, the computer, the smart board, the different things that were on these art teachers' lists. And when we released Hannah Bonji to do the CAD drawings for down there, because she's got an architecture background, we had to put subs in the classroom. When I was immersed in it, we had to put subs in the classroom. Those are the hidden costs that didn't get down on the things, but you know, so when it added all up, you know, the art money really helped. You know, there's still, it was
Huge.
beyond what the art
We
money
couldn't have
could
done it without
cover.
the money, that's
But
for
we
sure.
couldn't have done it without the money. Yeah. So thank you. All the efforts at the IFA just thrill us, and we really feel the teamwork because of it. All right. That's the
Very good.
one class.
Any other questions on this?
No, but I mean, I think that as an educator also who's aware, I have a lot of teachers in my family as well. The one thing that burns out teachers is overcommitment that's not compensated for. And so if you have teachers right now who are willing and able to kind of put in that extra time, that's one thing, but it's not necessarily sustainable.
It's not sustainable.
You can't do it over the long term, you can't expect it over the long term. And so I think it's good to hear about these staffing costs, and it should be something that perhaps you ask people to try and document their hours, so that then you know, we can see how much is uncompensated, and then perhaps that would be a means by which we could raise awareness among parents and better fundraise, because you know, we want the teachers to stay. The longevity and the consistency of teachers is very important in an
And to run these
educational
programs these are high-level programs, so that's why not many schools in the whole country, they may do one, they may do two, we do all of them. And that's because of either teachers had the expertise or they built it up over time.
Right.
So, yeah, I think sometimes you can be overly humble, and it causes problems. And I feel that's what's happening. As people perceive, so they're wondering, how did you spend all the art money? And I'm thinking, well, maybe about a quarter. You know, maybe we spent about a quarter of the needs. But so this kind of thing has to be. Okay, I want to use the last 12 minutes. We can go longer if you want to stay longer. On the character thing, there was another question, because I think this is important. You're familiar with that cycle that we have all over the school? You sow a thought, you reap an action, you sow an action, you reap a habit, you sow a habit, you reap a character, you sow a character, you reap a destiny. So it's got to be a 150-year-old quote, but anyway, we use it over and over again. Interestingly enough, James Hawken has this Lord Thackeray's library. Lord Thackeray is the author. So I was telling them when we were signing the merger papers how interesting that kind of interconnection. But I was just going to give you 2 pointers that I think are really helpful, and it kind of encapsulates what we do with the character piece. There's 2 parts. Ongoing language that inspires and guides. You know, at the negative side, it's nagging. On the positive side, you're uplifting children. It's just normal for every human being to sort of go downward. That's why either you love poetry, or you love some good literature, or you go to church on Sunday, or you go to the synagogue, or you're hearing something that uplifts you. Because if you're not being uplifted by something, good literature, or if you're religious, something that keeps making your heart pop up, and, yeah, because I just want to be a better person, then you just slowly degrade. It's just history tells us that story. Children are the same way. So when building character, language, positive language, or stories, like we do here, it's a lot of stories. We have this opening. So every single day there's some story about other wonderful people or other wonderful deeds, and so your heart keeps getting lifted up, and it works all the way through the 8th grade. I just love my morning times with my 8th graders to see their pre-teen teens, 12, 13, 14, but they can get inspired. Their eyes are just like this. When you talk about being a great person. Then those words guide. There's lots of research that shows that the stories they hear, the people you tell them about, can be common day, just people you see around, pointing out beautiful things that you see in your neighbors or in a family member. But when you point it out, the beautiful thing is something inside of them responds to that. And this is as old as Aristotle, that there was beauty or virtue inside a human being that needs to be called out. You're not teaching people how to be good. It's already there. So good language, whether they're stories at home or models that you use or little phrases, adages or proverbs, they awaken. Every time you hear them, you awaken. You could have said them 100 times. It doesn't matter. True things never get old. That's why you could, how many themes are they? My wife and I were talking about this, watching a movie recently, and it was a theme of redemption. How many books or movies have you seen with the theme of redemption? Doesn't change, and you still feel, oh, that's so wonderful. Because it's true. But if it's not there, if it's not being spoken again and again and again and over and over and over, then you forget, and you drift into a lower standard of life. So the power of language is important to inspire the guide. And then the second part is the power of training to habituate. If you don't practice it, it's one thing to hear, but if you don't practice it, you don't move the envelope. You don't see a change. And you do. This is what I think is, I could just talk for hours on this because I've seen it for 32 years. If we're faithful in inspiring them, and then training them, you just see changes. You just see changes in them one by one. It's just beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful, the power of it. It's just, again, it's 2,400 years old, Aristotle. But it's been repeated throughout history, the same kind of issues of what makes children grow. So I was going to give you two examples, okay, of our Aristotelian virtues and how we use the definition to also become a means to train. One of them is courage. It's usually listed as the first of the 7 moral virtues. Now, usually traditional definition would be, you think of courage in a military setting or somebody standing up when it's hard, Martin Luther King Jr. or somebody who's made a posture like that. But many times those are, the environment gave the opportunity to become a hero. Often military heroes will tell you this, I'm not a hero, but the moment came and they grabbed it and sacrificed themselves for their fellow soldiers or something on that order. So we've been working on a working definition of courage, and I have a number of sources I've been drawing from. But really, courage is understanding whatever goal you have, whatever objective you have, and recognizing the price that has to be paid, and you're willing to pay it. It's as easy as on a first grade level. If I want to get better in math, well, honey, we have to put in an extra 3-4 minutes every night practicing our facts. You have to be brave because you're not going to want to do it. That kind of talk can be on something as simple as that. But number one, it has language. Look how brave you heard everybody playing outside and you stayed at this 5 more minutes. You're so brave. That's so courageous. Because you recognize the sacrifice that has to be made and you make it. But it's practicable. When I do the Ben Franklin with the 8th graders, we talk about this a lot. What are your goals this year? They always want to get better grades or they want to get into this high school, And then I'll ask them, well, what does it take? And usually they've never thought about it. Or they'll think about it very generically. Hard work. Okay, what does that mean? When are you going to hard work? Well, right after school. What do you usually do after school? Well, play video games. Okay, have you thought that maybe for that hour, you're going to have to put that extra time in? That's going to take courage. Are you willing to pay that price? It's kind of simple, but it's the same language over and over again. Whether it's a simple task or whether it's very complex. To do things, I have to pay a price to get my goal. If I want to be good friends, We've used this with children. I want to be friend. I want more friends. Wow. Okay, what does it take to be a friend? Well, you have to say hello to your friends. You have to share things. There's things you have to do that you don't want to do. Are you willing to do that? So now courage becomes a little bit of a manageable thing. Something that can be both talked about and practiced and reflected on when they don't. So that's one. And the other one was on compassion. And we can chat more about this if you like. Because this is another important general topic people are interested in. Actually, last spring, Greg, I think somebody asked about what do we do with compassion. Again, there's a traditional definition. Where would compassion come from? Somebody downtrodden, hardship, difficulty, and you have feeling. Actually, I like to, when your kids are teenagers, you need to send them to Nicaragua or something for a 6-week stint and work in a village and find out how hard life can be. Kids come back changed. Don't complain nearly as much. So there's that level, or in your mail, I'll get things from Doctors Without Borders, whatever, and these horrific pictures of suffering children. What do you want to do? Okay, I'll give, whatever. And that's, of course, important. That's why we have a week with the 7th and 8th graders when they work in a soup kitchen, they'll go to the Head Start, just to have a feeling about the needs other people have. But when it's teachable, see, when you're away from that, out of sight, out of mind. But compassion is very concrete, every day, and it's built on what I call reasoned empathy. It says, from, walk a mile in my shoes kind of thinking. This is a very narcissistic age. Everything's about me. What am I going to get? How much am I going to have? How much fun am I going to have? And it's quite a struggle to teach children, even when we talk about behavior. What is the need of the people in your room? What is the need of mommy? What is the need of daddy? And so then you conduct yourself to be a benefactor to wherever you're at. You're a positive input. When I discipline the kids for talking, the first thing you want to do is when they're yelling and they don't raise their hand, that's enough, that's enough, that's enough. That only goes so far, but when you talk to them in terms of, okay, you just shouted, what happens to everybody else when you shout out in class? They don't pay attention, they're distracted, they were working. Okay, you affected everybody because of you didn't think, what does everybody else need, and therefore, how should I behave? And same thing related to respecting teachers. A lot of times you'll have children who are very self-absorbed. They'll shout out how they want, and they'll ignore what you say. And so I'll go into long explanations with children. How do you think I feel right now? Not feel in the way of feeling. What did you just do to me? I asked you not to talk, and what did you do? You talked. What have you just told me about how you feel about me? They never thought about that. Well, you just told me I'm worthless in your eyes. I'm not worth being listened to. Or you should see their eyes. No, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that at all. No, in fact, that's exactly what you meant. Not really, not in their heart. But the awareness of why people are where they're at, their feeling, their attitude, what they need at a given time, that's a part of becoming a whole human being. If you do not have proper connections with others, and you're not a contributor to the social groups, and when I mean social groups, that's family, extended family, classroom, on and on, a team, whatever you end up being. When we're professionals, it's the same way. You're with people in your professional circle, and they're thoughtless, they're not builders, they tear down, meeting's over, they complain and gripe. It tears it apart. So now we have tools, in this case, for compassion. Gradually you have feeling about people. Passion is with feeling. I do things with feeling, but not because of how I just feel, but because I've reasoned what is the need of the people around me, what is the reason of the social group that I'm in, and how do I positively contribute. So I just bring up those two because I did want to stop at 9. We try to keep this dual handle on character development. One is the language, and 2, now it's practicable. So I can go back to the children in the class and explain, well, what was wrong? Why did it go like this? And it's not just rules. You walk into my class and you don't talk. That are, it's not rules. I conduct myself because there's a reason why I act like this around other people, why I act around this with my social setting. Does that make sense? Follow? To me, it's been one of the successes of the character program because it has the 2 handles on. We're not just talking about it, but with children, you have to have a language that attaches the whole thing, and then follow up with time with them so they understand. But I probably should add, I don't know when they finally do understand, maybe 35, 40, 45, 50. Takes a long time. But it's effective. It just keeps pushing them in the right direction. That's one of our ongoing themes with the whole program. You don't just become a good person. You just move a step further. One step. Each time it's a little bit further. And that makes it manageable. And it also keeps you from being condemned. Little children, if they keep getting in trouble, and we've got a lot of those guys and girls, they get in trouble, pretty soon you begin to read yourself wrong. I'm a bad person. I got bad things about me. But if they can understand, no, nobody's bad. We just move this thing forward. You accept when you did something wrong, admit it, say you're sorry, and what can we do now? So it's a reasoned approach to building up these qualities